Oh, essential. In New York, mysterious radioactive ooze has mutated 4 sewer turtles into talking, upright, walking, crime-fighting ninjas. Excuse me. The intrepid heroes Michelangelo, Donatello, Raphael, and Leonardo are trained in the ninjutsu arts by their rat sensei, Splinter. When a villainous rogue ninja who is a former pupil of Splinter arrives and spreads lawlessness throughout the city, it's up to the plucky turtles to stop him. That's the bio from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I'm really excited because we're getting into mutations, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We got to figure out why they're mutant. It's Spirit Week. It's pajama day. Hopefully you got your PJs on. Let me see your PJs. PJs, not basketball shorts, girls and boys. PJs. So it's Spirit Week. We got that on the agenda. So make sure you have your pajamas on. Take a picture of yourself and send me the pictures in Google Classroom so we can post it and have a grandiose time. So, Ms. King, why the heck did you read the bio to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Well, because mutation is what we're going to talk about today. We're moving to 2.1 in Amplify, and R5 and IXL. So a mutation is a random change to a gene that sometimes results in a new trait. Okay? So we've talked about natural selection. We talked about adaptive and non-adaptive traits. I'm going to go over all these definitions again just because I haven't seen you all weekend. I missed you. And then we're going to deep dive into mutation. You have a worksheet on mutation, and I'm going to create an exit ticket, just 3 questions. I just want to make sure you understand it, and it'll go directly in the Google Classroom. So, number 1, natural selection, just to recap. Natural selection is the process, and I'll type these definitions into the bio below, is the process by which distribution of traits in a population changes over many generations. Same old examples, because I don't want us confused. Thinking about in Egyptian times, I told you King Tut, and most of those mummies had an average height of like 4'5", 4'6". So to us, they're like midgets and we're giants, right? This was population change and distribution of traits over many generations. Mutation. Well, I'll say mutation for last. An adaptive trait. An adaptive trait is a trait that makes it more likely an individual will survive in a specific environment. An adaptive trait would be a better respiratory system, thinking about the pandemic we have going on now. That adaptive trait of having stronger lungs being passed down gives you a better chance at survival. Non-adaptive trait, a trait that makes it less likely an individual to survive in a specific environment. Thinking back to Australia, the UV light, right? So we know that Australians who did not have a significant amount of UV light will have a less chance at survival. Offspring. You are your parents' offspring. I am my parents' offspring. An offspring is an organism produced as a result of reproduction. I know we're not in sex ed yet. I'm still doing virtual sex ed. But that happens when your parents come together, right? Reproduction occurs. And you pulled out different traits, both adaptive and non-adaptive, from your parents. But you also may have pulled out a mutation. Okay? Mutation is a random change to a gene that sometimes results in a new trait. So, everybody in my family has asthma except me. Every single person. And so, even though to the average Joe or Jane, it's like, oh, that's a good thing, Miss King. It's still a new trait that had not occurred prior in my ancestry, right? And so, will my mutation of not having asthma make me more adaptive or non-adaptive? Exactly, right? I have a more of an adaptive trait. I will be able to adapt to what's going on right now because I don't have asthma, whereas we're like hovering over all my siblings, making sure they're staying in the house. So everybody got that? Cool. So now I want to kind of go over the worksheet with you. I wonder will it still be up if I do this? Probably not. Oh, I had a good riddle, y'all. I can't even remember it. What was that riddle? Gosh darn it, I don't remember it. Well, anyway, what are some mutations that you have? I want to see you answering this in the Google stream. So I literally want to see you saying what mutation you have that your family members might not have. For me, mine is asthma. For my sister, it'll be height. My sister is tall, and no one else is as tall as her. So like, just think about, here we go. I want you to literally think about what mutations you have. So this is how the worksheet looks. Ooh, Jesus, excuse me, that you're gonna complete. Okay, it's only 5 questions. I'm gonna read the very first part, this little superhero section. I know a lot of people don't have access to this. Again, if you don't, please tell me. It is nothing for me to screenshot this stuff to you and send it to your phone so you can still be writing answers down in the classroom. So, in movies, mutations are always exciting. They might give someone special powers, right? Or extra limbs. That's kind of disturbing. However, real mutations can be very boring. They might not have any noticeable effect at all. What is a mutation anyway? The answer has to do with genes and the way they are passed down when organisms reproduce. Genes are instructions for making protein molecules, and those protein molecules determine an organism's traits. When organisms reproduce, they pass down copies of their genes to their offspring. However, the copies aren't always perfect. As genes are duplicated, changes can occur. These changes are called mutations. These changes are called, great job. And they can be passed from parent to offspring when organisms reproduce. Most of the changes are minor and don't affect traits at all. But every once in a while, mutated genes give instructions to make a new protein molecule that leads to a new trait in the offspring. How cool is that to be the mutated person? You're a unique individual if you actually start a new trait. So it's not passed down, it's mutated. You're like the pick of the litter, the needle in the haystack, right? So that is how a new trait arises from mutations. They may be adaptive or non-adaptive, or they may have no effect on survival and reproduction at all. It all depends on the organism's environment. Ooh, environment. If a new trait makes organisms less likely to survive and reproduce in their environment, the trait is non-adaptive. So again, if it's less likely to survive in that environment, it's non-adaptive. Where we leave off. Organisms born with that trait don't have a very good chance of surviving long enough to reproduce and pass their mutated genes down to the next generation. If they don't pass the mutated genes down, they don't pass the new trait down either. Mutated traits that are non-adaptive usually remain uncommon in the population. 2 more paragraphs, guys. Stay with me, stay focused. On the other hand, mutated genes sometimes result in a new trait that turns out to be adaptive. Me not having asthma, I'm able to adapt to this polluted Chicago environment. Adaptive traits help organisms survive and reproduce in their environments. If the mutation results in an adaptive trait, organisms with that trait are more likely to reproduce and pass on their mutated genes to the next generation. Through natural selection, adaptive traits become more and more common in the population over time. A trait that is adaptive in one environment may be non-adaptive in another. So maybe if you, are really, really hairy, you might really do well in Alaska and really do terrible in Africa, right? Environments don't stay the same forever. Mutations can introduce new traits, increasing the chance that one of those traits might help make a population better, able to adapt to a changing environment. To learn more about mutations, you can explore one or more of the following chapters. And then it just gives you a plethora of chapters to do. You're going to stop at number 5. That'll be it. So I really want you taking and making observations. I'm going to start a class discussion. I need like 50 words, guys, of participation, especially for my people who cannot get on Amplify and IXL. I really need to see you in Google Classroom. That is the way you'll get a lot of participation points. So today on Amplify, it's pretty simple to coast through. What it's going to have you do is go into the simulation, and you're going to create the Australope environment where mutations are happening. And then you're going to look over the 50 generation period to see how the traits became adaptive or non-adaptive and how the environment impacted those traits. Okay? That's it for today. Where's my, oh, Jesus. Let's see what Spirit Week is for tomorrow. ¿Dónde está? Okay, pajama day today. Okay, crazy sock day tomorrow. I have no socks, so I'm gonna be looking crazy for real, not for fake. Wednesday, Christmas in March. I'm excited about that. Thursday, social distance twin day. Miss Thiebert's my twin. London's my twin. London, I already finished my coffee, sweetheart. You gotta catch up. And then Friday is Disney day for my sister, Miss Higgins. Okay. That is about it. If you have any questions, type them in the chat thing. Cool. No questions thus far. If you think of something later, post it in the Google Classroom. As always, I love you. I miss you. And I hope you're having a wonderful day and have a good week. Goodbye.